Hello, I'm Weather from the Summoner School Discord, and I'm going to be walking through this game following the jungle Warwick. And like always, I'm going to start with talking about some win conditions. I think one of the most important things to winning a game is understanding what your team wants to do late game, what it wants to do or needs to do early game to set up for that late game, and what you can do to kind of prevent what their team wants to do late game. It shows you where you need to spend your attention. Early game gives you vision control in the right areas. Mid game, it opens up parts of the map that you need open, and it prevents the right people from getting fed on their team. So it's a really important thing to start rehearsing. If you don't already think about this during queue, during loading, at the first few minutes of the game, you need to be planning your clear, planning which lanes you're going to gank, which lanes you're going to camp, and what you need to do to get towers and ultimately get the enemy nexus, right? You need to be making these plans. So what your team wants to do is you've got an amazing amount of engage and team fight. Between all of this, you have a Kennen who can ult in, with his speed up. You have a Warwick who can ult. You have an Orianna who's got her game-changing ult. You've got a Tristana who just pumps out damage the whole time. And a Shen for either peel with his ultimate, or peel with his taunt, or engage with either of those things. Your split push is alright but it's not something you really should be trying to do with this comp. If the Kennen gets really far ahead of the Quinn, then the Kennen's going to be able to push that, but then the Quinn's going to be able to group really quickly. So ideally, your team's going to want to look for the early groups and just pressure something really hard to the point that if the Quinn decides she wants to split push, she's going to lose, two turrets or something. Um, right. So what does their team want to do? Their team also has an okay amount of team fight, but their team fight is reliant on getting either a Lux burst someone down, right? The pick from this, or the Twitch getting a great ult off. So their fight is based off of vision control between the Quinn rotating over, the Lux throwing a skill shot where you don't have vision, and the Twitch, flanking you guys. Those are all things that you need to be paying attention to with vision. The Kayn, depending upon which form he goes, is going to do different things. So the red Kayn is just going to be a more annoying front line, and Shadow Kayn is going to probably be trying to kill your Tristana. I think that he's going to go red Kayn based off of this team comp. You already have a couple of people who are going to be trying to assassinate. You don't need an extra one, and your team doesn't have something that's going to be super easy to assassinate. Between the Shen ult on whoever he goes in on, the Tristana's double disengage, and whatever else, you got a lot to work with there. So what this means I would be trying to do, right? I wouldn't necessarily be trying to get the Kennen ahead, and the bottom lane is something that's kind of mediocre to gank, depending upon how you get your gank off. It's something that if you get a good opportunity to, yeah, I'd be looking for it. But I think I'd be focusing mid. Because if the Lux gets further behind, that removes her ability to pick people, really. She's not going to be able to throw skill shots over the wall and 100 to 0 someone. But how would you really focus mid in this matchup? Because both of these people are probably just going to safely wave clear, right? That's what you would be thinking. Well, it would be from things like getting Scuttle, getting Vision where you think the enemy jungler is going to gank, and playing close enough so that if they push, so like, Raptors always be watching over here, and then Wolves always be watching over here, and then Gromp, then Scuttle, then always be watching over here, type of thing, right? If you're always looking for it, you will find opportunities. Mid lane also is the most accessible lane to gank, so it's easy to play around this almost the entire game. The only camp that you can't really play around it with is Krugs, because you got all of this to travel through. Um, so what I would probably be trying to do is, based off of how the early matchup goes here, maybe do one gank top, and then, because Kenna does have some setup, and she does have Ignite, you could put this Quinn behind early, but then I would start ignoring it. And then I'd be looking towards mid. So we're gonna see what you end up doing, and then we'll see what kind of setup we can do, and we'll see your clear and other stuff. This is a great habit. I really appreciate this. Your laners are not watching for you, but you're providing. Oh no, you're AFK. Never mind. The reason you stand here is to prevent stuff like this from happening. Come on, man. If you're going to be here, what's the point of being here if you're not looking? The point of being here is to prevent these invades because you're watching for them. But if you're AFK, then there's no point in being here. But that's not an excuse, because you always need to be here and you always need to be paying attention. The moment this game loads in, you need to be present. So you've already given up a huge advantage to them this game, because they have an XP lead now, and their jungler, who is going to have access to the entire map, is going to have now more sustain than you, because he gets both those jungle items. He's going to have more sustain, probably with maybe a pink ward, not sustain, but more vision with the pink ward. So a jungle item and a pink ward is probably what he's going to be able to have. You know, the Twitch and the Nautilus warded your red, so I would be trying to smite this. It's not worth risking a steal. But you do see the Lux over here, so I guess you're fine. The only person that could have stolen that was the Twitch or the Kayn, and the Kayn wasn't over there. So, okay. So now you're doing what I was saying. Here's your window to where you could be looking for a gank or looking for a gank, right? Mid lane is your better bet here, just judging by the positioning of the wave. Top lane's probably not going to amount to too much, but I would be kind of waiting around for something to happen. And this time I would be taking Scuttle, wait for some of your mana to come back, and then looking to see which of these two lanes is good and gankable. Because they're both in a pretty okay spot, but mid lane, she's going to want to wave clear this out a little bit first. No matter how pushed the Lux is, the Orianna is going to have a slower time responding to this, and you don't have enough crowd control to really get the Orianna up there. So this is a pretty hard setup right now to get this gank to get a kill. You might get a flash, for sure, you might get a flash. Up here, you might even make her recall, but neither of these are really kills. And this is an example of just kind of wasting time. If you're waiting here for an opportunity to gank, odds are they've either warded already, right? 3 minutes is a pretty early window to gank, honestly, so they probably haven't warded yet. But there's nothing for you really to be getting here, and you could have done Scuttle and then worked your way up, right? This is an example of just wasted time. Time is incredibly valuable when you're a jungle, because that means your XP lead is gone. That means he's 6 first. That means that you don't have your ult. That means that you can't gank quite effectively. Yeah, you do end up getting this gank off, but you could have used your time more efficiently over here. And like I said, this wasn't going to be a kill. You got your flash, but it wasn't going to be a kill. Oh, but she overstays. This should be a kill. Okay, yeah. That was a good return gank. That's a very good habit that junglers don't do often enough, is return gank. A lot of the times what happens is you gank someone, they flash away, they TP back to lane, and then if you gank them again, they have nothing. So if you're watching the map, you see that the Kayn's bottom, and this doesn't really signal too much for you right now, because there's no way you're going to come down here. But it means nothing's going to be able to respond to you at any other point in the map. So your gank up here, in other words, was completely safe. I don't think that you would have seen him right away and to like know your gank was super safe over here. But that shows you that you're fine. You could also be looking for something mid here, since she has low mana and low health, but you know, you just might not have. Actually, hang on. Let's see what's going on here. All right, yeah. So your awareness of what's happening on the map is a little bit needs a little bit of improvement. So this is the scenario where Kayn's bottom, right? Kayn's bottom. No one's going to counter gank this except maybe you. You already had your speed up running over here. Why did you think you had your speed up? Because the Lux was low, right? This is where your mark is. And you weren't even walking to it, you were walking over to your camp. So your awareness needs some work. I'm not saying you would have saved her life, but you would have definitely been here in time to pick up this kill, because now she has no flash and no ignite and no mana. So what you did is you got 80 gold when you could have denied probably 200 gold, gotten 400 gold, right? So this decision of going mid here earlier would have been like 600 gold swing. Because she's able to farm this whole thing, you would have been able to pick up this whole wave, you would have killed the Lux. And you're still not even trying for it. What are you doing? Okay, so this was a safe invade, but an invade where you weren't going to get anything. Realistically, this was a good use of time if you're really if you're really trying to force this top lane gank. Sure, you can force this top lane gank. But what would be even better if you just waited for the Kennen to get 6 to come up here and do something, and instead you would try to do something mid. Right? Okay, this is my bias, sure. This is a safe invade because you already checked his raptors were gone, his red wasn't here, so probably the Kayn is bottom and is clearing up and was expecting to get these much later. His raptors just spawned, so he'll be on this camp before he's even on Krugs. Yeah, sure, fine. But your focus towards this side of the map is kind of strange. And the reason it's kind of strange is your win condition isn't necessarily put the Quinn really far behind or put the Kennen really far ahead. You're not really denying any of their win conditions. If the Quinn is super far behind, she's going to be splitting, right? She's going to be splitting to try and get gold. If she's super far ahead, she's going to be splitting to try and pressure towers. She's going to do the same thing in either situation. If the Lux is really far ahead, she's going to be killing your team with picks. If the Lux is really far behind, she's going to be really fucking scared and not able to wave clear because her abilities don't do enough damage. So you're going to be able to siege on her. If she's really far ahead, you're not going to be able to siege on her because her abilities are going to one-shot the backline. Okay. So if you're putting this much pressure on top, it needs to be that the Kennen's going to be able to do something later, right? And the Kennen's role is to engage. Well, if you're trying to get the engage to, like, one-shot people, sure, I guess. But, again, you could be focusing damage in other areas, right? Kennen's not going to get bullied out of this lane. He's also ranged. He's got a lot of CC. Sure, he can help you with your ganks. But this lane also has a lot of CC, and this lane has a lot of CC. It's got a slow. It's got an ult in a little bit. So you put a lot of focus on a top lane. And I think that's not acknowledging your win condition. Yeah. So what the problem is here is a couple of things. You don't recognize a bad fight. Your advantage here, your only advantage here is that you have minions helping you. It's not like they blew too many cooldowns because Twitch still has Flash, Nautilus still has Exhaust, right? They're not all 6, so it's not like you just saw them ult and you're going in. The only advantage here is that you have minions. And you choose this fight. That's really problematic. If you were going to try and do something to this lane, what would have been smarter is wait for the Kayn to straight up just leave, do your Krugs, get level 6, and then gank it. Then you would have had a 2v2. You would have been 6 and had your ult. Tristana might have been 6 too. The Twitch might have been 6 as well. Sure, sure. But at least then you would have not have a numbers disadvantage. And you choose this fight. And I know you messaged me saying that you recognize this as you engaged a bad fight. But why was it a bad fight? Is something that you need to start thinking about. Because just, hindsight, it's really easy to say that it was a bad fight. But it was a bad fight because they still had resources, and even after the flash away, they still had exhaust. So they had enough to even turn on you even further if they wanted to. And you're not keeping track of cooldowns. If you think that you have an advantage in this fight because Tristana just did a chunk of their health, well, she's not going to be able to chase efficiently, so it's just going to be you on whoever is deciding to fight you, and you're going to die. And you thought Trist had more damage and you'd resist more, right? Okay, well, let's open... Okay, no, she has shopped already. But they're full life. And if you're thinking that you'd resist more, you haven't bought any resists. You shouldn't resist more. You don't have any defensives yet. The smarter move would have just been to get 6, let her wait under turret, then engage the 2v2. So your decision there resulted in 2 deaths and a turret, probably. So your first decision was to not gank mid. That was probably like a 600 gold deficit to not do this. Your second decision down here resulted in 2 deaths and a turret, probably. If they wanted to stay for it, they could have gotten it. And that's another, like, 800 gold. No, even more than that, because the turret gives everyone gold. That's like 1,500 gold. So far, you've put your team behind 2,000 gold. If they had done everything optimally and you had done everything optimally, you could have definitely prevented that. And 2,000 gold is the difference between you being ahead here and behind here, considerably. And look at how this matchup is going right now, right? If you put all of that effort into it, then there should be something that can happen up here, right? Well, she's almost even in CS, even though she's died twice. She's died twice without TP, so that means she's late coming back to lane. There's no advantage growing over here. This is an example of kind of a wasted investment. You could have invested this in mid, which could have prevented the Lux from roaming bottom, which could have saved Tristana's life. Simple things like that. So far, I think your problems are awareness from not recognizing that that was a free kill mid. You definitely misjudge fights, but the key to fights is thinking about what you're going to get out of it. And the key to that then is if you're going to get this fight, right? What's the difference between getting it now when you're chasing into 3 of them and waiting a little bit and then going down when there's only 2 of them? If you can get that fight later, then just take it later. You don't need to do that chase that was here. So recognizing what you can do later, that That's how one way you can pick fights better. Your win condition is another issue. You start focusing this top lane really hard. I don't know if it's that you really just like ganking top lane, but this matchup is not going to change too much. Because Quinn is ranged and has a lot of mobility, she's going to be able to split effectively. She's going to be able to farm effectively. She's not going to be useful in their team comp either if she's super ahead or super behind, just because she's going to be doing the same thing. She's going to be splitting. And you want the Kennen to group. You don't want the Kennen to be splitting. In this situation, 100% stay for turret. You've already gotten this one pretty low, which means that you're going to lose first turret, or you're going to, and your Lux, like you can't gank this. You can't gank for the Orianna. She doesn't have TP. Kayn is probably clearing top, but if you invade here, if Kayn is clearing top, that means that you're going to run into him. That's not really what you want right now, because guess what? Lux can respond to that. Orianna can't. Kennen wants to take this turret. Kennen's making the right call. You're walking away looking for a fight. Unnecessary. Look at this turret. You could have taken this turret. So your decision here was to take 80 gold instead of first turret, which is like 1,000 gold. So you put your team behind so far 3,000 gold with your decisions. Not taking the mid kill, engaging the fight bottom, which means they should have gotten this turret, and not taking the top turret. All of these decisions so far is 3,000 gold that you've put your team behind, and that would have been a huge lead at this point. All right, here you're not watching your team's resources, or again, Orianna couldn't have done anything. She had no mana. So you were going in on a 1v1, and you didn't know where the Kayn was, but he wasn't on his red buff, which means he was probably still playing around bot side because he wasn't anywhere in his top jungle when you invaded. If he was bot side, that means he could respond to this. So you end up wasting your flash. And dying. Oh, no, Shen came to your rescue. And dying, okay. 1 for 1. Ooh, 2 for 1? Okay. I think that was more luck that you had a Shen than anything else. But this also kind of happens because of what just happened up there. And she doesn't die for it, but a resource was used on you, so keep that in mind. Okay, no, you don't have your ult. Never mind. I was going to say you hold your ult a lot, but you didn't have your ult. This isn't really necessary to stay for. I agree with you leaving because the Tristana shouldn't even be staying for that, and you already should have first turret up here, so it's not super necessary. I agree with you leaving. But again, look at this matchup top lane. 87 to 91. Do you know 87 CS is still the exact same as everyone else on their team if they're not put behind? They still have the equivalent items and XP of everyone else on their team. This is a wasted investment. You did not put her behind. Okay, and good question, right? How do you recognize if you're able to put someone behind? Because she did not have TP, so she was going to get behind in experience, right? Oh no, she didn't. Well, surely she was going to get behind in CS, right? No, she didn't. How do you know if a laner is going to get put behind? Well, there's a couple of things that go into this. First, it's how well does your laner do in a split push scenario? Kennen does all right. Kennen's more of a team fight champion. How well does their champion do in a split push scenario? Their champion does excellent in a split push scenario. So at best, you're putting a excellent against excellent, right? You feed this Kennen, he's still going to get disengaged. And if the Quinn builds a little bit of magic resist, she's never going to die, not just on a 1v1. Meanwhile, the rest of your matchups, right? If you had ganked bottom a couple of times, with how aggressive this lane has been, and how fed your Tristana already is, well, if Twitch is far behind, he's not going to be able to step anywhere near this Tristana, which means this Tristana is going to be able to do whatever the shit she wants. What about mid, right? Putting the Lux behind means you can't wave clear, which means that you get the push off and you can siege. Again, this is a wasted investment. Every team comp is different though, so sometimes camping for your top laner is good. This game, it's not. And you need to start recognizing win conditions. Very important. This is a very good stay. Yeah. You should have known where they were going to walk, though. This is a small prediction thing. Who are you going to choose to engage on as a Warwick, right? Right? If you were a Warwick, would you be going for the Shen or would you be going for the Tristana? It's the exact same if they were to engage up here or down here. Right? Of course you're going to engage on the Tristana. So why would you not be running down to the Tristana instead of the Shen? If you were walking down this way, you could have 100% ulted over this and gotten that Twitch. Then the Shen could have taunted and secured your entire ultimate and to prevent the Nautilus from knocking you up. There's your investment. Now, this is not something you can blame your team for. Him dying here is not his fault. What happens here is you're playing in such a way that, yes, you give him a lot of resources, but by giving him resources, giving him your ganks, you're denying mid lane ganks, you're denying bot lane ganks. And you know, if you put pressure down here, the Kayn would have to come down here. Right? So whenever you're doing this and getting all this pressure up here, you better be ready for losing other lanes. You were lucky enough to have your bottom lane win without you, and then later on, whenever you came and died, they still were able to win with you after that, right? So you came this time. But the first time you came here, you just fed. So that's not really helping this lane out. All you've done so far is early game. Your first, probably up until this gank, first 12 minutes, you fed bot lane and it completely ignored middle. That's what you've done for the rest of the map. And you've ganked successfully top a couple of times, yeah. But that's not your win condition. And again, your objective priority is pretty lacking because you still haven't gotten this turret, right? And I said that you probably could have gotten this whenever you invaded for the red buff. And just see how much more that could have opened up the map. That would have let the Kennen roam mid whenever this was open. That means that you're going to get those team fights that he's looking for and you should be looking for. Could put the Orianna ahead, could lead to another turret. Also, my bias is you should always give your blue buff to your mid laner. Especially in a situation like where it's a mana-hungry mid laner. Your Orianna is not doing bad. She's doing okay, but you could help her out considerably by giving her that blue buff. This is a very selfish maneuver, and if you're doing this, you better be ready to carry, and your choices this game are not carrying choices. You sacrifice objectives, which win games, for 80 gold. If you're really that worried about 80 gold, You got your 80 gold here too, congratulations, but both of these are still worth less than the tower you could have gotten, or the tower you could have gotten, or the tower you could have gotten, or the game you could have won. So your bottom lane is doing really well, kind of despite you, but sometimes that happens, right? Often it's a reverse where your bot lane feeds, but your bot lane's doing very well. I like you taking Scuttle. It's not going to give you enough vision control, though. I haven't even been looking at your vision control this game. I did notice a couple of wards that you placed. Most of your wards are kind of redundant, where you've already checked something and they have no reason to be there after you put the ward down. Like whenever you invaded over here, you put a ward down to check and see if his red buff was here. You were walking into those bushes anyways. You then went and took his red buff, so there's no reason for him to be here. So it's not going to spot him out. That's kind of a redundant ward. Or not redundant, but unnecessary. That's a wasted resource, which is the equivalent of not warding. You do use your trinket, but you don't use it well. This is not going to catch a Kayn gank route. This is only for money. After this, I would potentially be looking to do Herald, since you've got Scuttle, and you could get vision control over here with your trinket coming up almost. Not Scuttle, Herald. And Orianna's probably going to be able to wave clear, probably. Twitch is stuck down here. Kayn is probably down here working his way up, and he will be up here in a minute. But a minute is long enough for you to take this. You then could use this to get a turret. Whether or not you use it to get that one hit top lane, or you use it to probably get middle, this is a pretty good investment here. Yeah. But you should get vision control before you do this. Dropping a ward over this is critical because Kayn can just walk over it super easily. I would drop your Herald after I hit this turret once. Yeah. See, that was a very good investment. I've talked a lot about kind of, not in this review, but a lot of people overvalue things like this and end up sacrificing a lot to do this. You picked a very good time to do Herald because the jungler should have been clearing up. Should have only been here in a minute, even though he was here a little bit earlier. You needed to secure it with some vision first, right? Yeah. But then after that, again, the Twitch was stuck down here, and the Nautilus was probably going to be with him, judging by the way this lane was going. Only person you really were worried about was the Lux showing up, and the Lux should have been stuck mid if Orianna was playing it right. Very good decision to stay for this turret. Very good decisions. The past, 2 minutes have been very good decisions, aside from the vision control before you started Herald. Is that your trinket? This is a completely unnecessary trinket. Do you see where your team is right now? Your team is mid lane. This ward is another example of a wasted resource because no one's going to fucking cross through this that you're going to respond to. Who is going to be coming over to Herald? No one. Herald's not up. Baron's not up for 4 minutes. Who's going to be pushing this lane? Well, they're going to be fucking in this lane. And Kennan's not in this lane, so it's not like Kennan's going to get ganked for overextending, which this ward wouldn't even catch someone anyways. So this is another wasted resource. You need to work on your warding. Your win conditions, assessing fights, whether or not it's to come back later, what you can get later mentality. What you also need to work on your awareness, whether or not that means you gank mid for that free as fuck kill early game. You need to work on your objective control for towers. You completely ignored your easy tower take and decided instead to get a red buff. That's not a very good trade at all. You should never do that. Never, 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 never. 100 times never. So that's about, I don't know. I think I said 6 things. Pulling a number out my ass. I don't know. And, okay, here's kind of recognizing what the enemy team wants to do, right? Well, Tristana's being kind of dumb pushing down here. You know they're all going to come and kill her ass. So you got to go and you got to be responding to this. You also haven't put the Lux at all behind, so the Lux is going to be able to wave clear mid, so you need to rotate away from the Lux, who even built more wave clear with Ludens. So this is the right move to be pushing bottom. It's the wrong move because no one else is there. You know what makes this the wrong move? Because you do Raptors. Realistically, you needed to run down there right away. That's the difference in this fight starting with you guys alone and you guys with Tristana. That was the difference here. That little bit of time where you did something else. Because then, whenever this fight was starting, they were already responding, right? Which meant that Tristana had to walk all the way around this way. But if you guys were already in this lane, didn't matter if they were responding this way, you're already with the Tristana. She's dead. Again, this is your investment, and he doesn't want to split. So anytime that he's split like this, your guys are losing, right? And as I said, what does the Quinn want to do? You see what the Quinn's doing? She's creating pressure up here, and this ward that should not have caught anyone out actually does catch her rotating. Right? So even though you put her behind, she's still able to do exactly what she wants to do. And by the way, she's not behind. She's ahead in CS now. Yeah. So that fight could have been changed by predicting what the enemy wanted to do and responding to it. Waiting in base, unless you got a very important item, is never a good habit. This is not a good habit. You're waiting way too long even if you have an important item. And you bought... No, not worth waiting. Always be present when you're playing a game. You sign up for this investment. You have to be here. Whether or not that's watching early or that is not AFKing in Fountain. You cannot do that. This is also wasted time. So now you're wasting a considerable amount of time. You've stepped onto your red buff when it's not here. That means you're not paying attention to the map. If you're paying attention to the map, for starters, you would have known this was happening, right? You were being ganked early. If you're paying attention to the map, you would have known that this wasn't here. If you were paying attention to the map, you would have known that you could have done something else, like waiting for a gank instead of just sitting in this bush. You could have cleared Scuttle. Remember your level like 2-3 gank, like the 3-minute gank at level 3, right? Up here, could have been using your time more efficiently. Remember your time efficiency up here? You didn't take the turret. You took red buff. You're wasting a lot of time. That is probably... No, that's not your biggest problem. Your biggest problem is win conditions. But wasting time is a good follow-up. Predicting the enemy team is another good follow-up. Predicting the enemy team would have known that, for starters, the Kayn was going to leave. That's a very simple prediction, right? It was going to be a 2v1. So, okay. Then come back later for the bot lane gank that you fed with, and get the 2v2 with your ult. Another prediction would have been to walk over here to this fight earlier instead of doing Raptors, which took you 3 seconds, but 3 seconds is the difference between being with your Tristana and not. The lot of fights like that, predicting what the enemy team is going to do. And it's really simple if you start thinking about what you would do. What do you want to do as Warwick? Well, you want to get on the Tristana. So sure as shit, they're going to get on the Tristana, right? Kiting up to the Shen doesn't make as sense as kiting down to the Tristana in that fight. Still worked out, but that's an example of prediction again. What would you do? Rather, not what would you do, what should you do? Because if they're not playing optimally, then you have an advantage anyways. And what should you do is always focus on what you can do to get turrets, to get the Nexus, the game, win the game. What you can do to win the game. Okay? Your decision making with Herald so far has been pretty good. your decision making with the use of it is also pretty good. That means you know how to use those resources. You don't know how to use trinkets, though. Especially not pink wards. You got one this game, but it's 18 minutes in. That's not good. And I don't know if I mentioned your awareness, but your awareness for that mid gank was really unfortunate. You need to step up your awareness too. This is a bad pink ward, and let me explain why. You know, you could have used that pink ward for at 19.5 minutes. That time window should kind of cue you into something that's spawning soon. Yeah? You know, your Tristana's pretty fed. You're a fat Warwick, right? You got some health items, and you're ready to sit on this Baron and let your Tristana DPS it down, right? Yeah. Get control over here so you can start threatening it. Putting a pink ward here protects no objective over here, doesn't defend it against any rotations bottom because you already have this defending against rotations and this defending against rotations. And it's a Twitch, so like the Twitch is going to come stealth through lane. This ward does defend nothing. Your warding needs work. Here, I think you hold your ult too long, honestly. I would have been looking for that engage right away. In my playbook here, it would be either rotate bottom or rotate top. Since the Lux was standing alone, I would have ulted her if that meant I had to flash ult her. You all four, since you're a team fight comp, could have turned on a fight, especially it did not matter if their team was still here. You could have won the team fight just because you have such a strong team fight comp and you would have picked one of their carries. If you look at the map, would have been an okay decision, not a great one. But now they still have their wave clear up. Here is when I would call Baron. 100% I would call Baron here. Their jungler is dead, and they do have a lot of catch potential, but if you had your pink ward and you pink warded over here and you sweep over here because the Shen also has a pink ward, you know what? They're going to have to do some risky-ass checking, face checking in here. If they do that, you got a Shen to taunt them, got a Tristana to hop on them with flash and heal, you got an Orianna to, throw out some damage to, you got a Kennen who saved his ult in that fight. You got a ton of shit to, like, control this. And you're not going to be able to siege into the Lux because you didn't put her far behind. You're just going to wave clear this. This is all wave cleared. This is a waste of time. This is 300 gold per person. That's 1,500 gold right here. You're now put your team behind equivalent of 4,500 gold with your decisions this game. And if you count potentially also getting the Lux kill, then it's about 5,000 gold. Because then you would have also gotten this turret and Baron. Which means, actually, no, that's 6,000 gold. And you're ready to flash ult the Quinn. Why do you care so much about the Quinn? Oh my god, no. That's not your win condition. That changes nothing. You also engage this too far away from your team without pinging. Where's your ping? Where's your I'm on my way? Where are you starting this fight? They're on your way? Well, that's one ping. What about 6 of them? Let your team know. And look at... why do you start on the Quinn? Why do you flash that when you're already on her face? Their wave clear's still up. You're not going to get anything here. You just get picked. See this? This is what happens. Okay, prioritizing targets is another important thing for you to work on. One ping is not enough, by the way. Whenever you're about to do something like that, you need about 6. You know how it says cannot ping anymore? That's when you know you're done pinging. Because you could have gotten all these ults off on them. I don't know what you're doing mid like this. You don't have wave clear. There's no reason for you to be here. If you're looking to counter-engage, you know it's a good way to counter-engage. Flank in their Lux. Who's going to be their damage? If they go in, you go in on the Lux. Okay? So you need to be looking around the side. If you're looking around the side, you need a sweeper, which you do have, and you just need to use it and walk this way. If you see a ward on this bush, then you don't go into it to clear it because they're here, but you at least know you can't do that. That's one play. Another play would be going up this way, trying to do the same thing, getting vision control over here. Maybe you have a pink ward at this point. You don't because you use it over here. See, look, great. You hung out and you roared at them. That's you don't know how to position for team fights. Warwick, maybe he is a champion that looks for team fights, but doesn't look for a team fight like this by standing under turret. That's how you accept the lost team fight. And this is another window of wasted time. You're not getting any XP here. You're not getting any money while you're doing this, and you're not defending your team. You're just not sure what to do. That's what that is. You don't know what to do. Go do your Raptors, stay nearby, be ready to rotate around. Okay, I do like you sweeping over here. But, again, what are you going to control on this side of the map? Now that they're leaving, you're not going to get your pick that you wanted. So now that they're leaving, you wanted to do that over here. You don't put any value on Baron, and you need to. You had already a window to do Baron, and that means you don't know how to Baron call. And you don't know how to set up for Baron either, because you're putting your pinks all down here. Again, this is not knowing where to ward. This is not knowing where to ward. This is not knowing where to ward. Review your warding and think about where the enemy team is going to go. Again, it falls into that scenario. Where should they go? Warding, win conditions, knowing where the enemy team would go, prioritizing targets, awareness on the map, not wasting time, Baron control, vision control, assessing fights, seeing what you can get later. Got a lot of different things you can work on. All this stuff is happening without you. But if you're... why do you start onto him? Targeting, 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 targeting. That's the last person you want to start on. Good, good. That's what you want to do. Watch how that fight goes now. That's a much better targeting. Much better targeting. Half of this fight you did not target correctly, but half of it you did. That was the difference between making it a 2 for 2. You could have had this turret if you had selected the correct target, but the Lux had a recall anyways, right? Because she was out of mana. I would not have focused the Lux there. I would have focused the Twitch. So you definitely selected the correct target with your ult. But this is one of those situations where you definitely did undervalue turrets. You could have stayed for that. Okay. Now you're dead, 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 dead. Someone needs to be clearing bottom, and it can't be you. Remember how I said, like, vision, that like, was going to be really important on the sides of fights? That's why. Twitch just showed up and killed your carry. Now you're sitting in the lane again, not doing anything. No one's down here, so they're just getting free turret damage and putting you further behind in global gold because you don't have those waves of minions. This is the equivalent of like a kill that you lost out on. But yeah, it couldn't have been you. If you're going to be walking up like this, you need to be doing something else too. Go up and push this out. One of the ways you respond to pressure is by creating pressure. One of the ways you can create pressure is pushing in a wave. Push in 2 waves sometimes. You can use your vision, put a ward up over here, right? Put a pink ward in here. Catch a lot of their rotations. Okay, great. You're Warwick too, so you're pretty fast. You're pretty capable of 1v1ing. You're on the correct side of the map because Baron's up and you're still up here ready for it. and you move someone, pull someone off of this. You know they've been playing towards the bottom side of the map, so the odds of someone being up here right now is pretty slim. See, no one's up here. You just swept partway through, so you already know no one's up there. But they have no reason not to stay mid. You guys are just A-ramming. You don't know how to control waves. And this is a wave you can control. You can't be bottom right now because Baron's up, but you can be top. You can ping people, too. You can type to them, say, hey, Kennen, go top. That is what you wanted to look for this whole time. Yep, yep. You then stay for this. You should have walked away. You accepted your death. Okay. Now, even though that was a good targeting choice, it wasn't a good team fight choice. I'm not going to really review that too much, though, because, actually, no, the gold is really close. Let me go back and look at that. Okay. So what makes this fight bad, right? Well, there's two things that make it bad. Let's look at thing 1, and now follow the mouse, thing 2. Okay. So where are the enemy team members, right? Enemy laners. Well, they're jungler, right? He's not top. He just swept up here, so he's probably looking around the side for this fight. And the Twitch was just flanking earlier and looking for the Orianna, right? So he's probably going to stealth again and look for it again. The Twitch is still here. The Kayn is probably here. So you pick a fight where even though you get a good targeting choice, it's a 3v5. There are two ways you need to count when you're playing an engaged champion, and you have to count both ways every time you're going to do something, every time you're going to engage. The first way you count is what is the maximum amount of people that will be here or can be here for the enemy team. You see 3, so yes, there are at least 3, but that's not what you're counting. You're counting the maximum. The maximum is 5, because you don't know where the other 2 people are because of shitty vision control. What's the minimum amount of people that can be here for your team is the second way you count. The minimum for your team is probably realistically only 2, because you're going to be one of these people forced out of the fight. But you don't know that yet. You don't know that yet, truly. So yeah, you'll count 3 versus 5 still. That's the way you count. And if you count like that, you know you will not go in. Once you start counting like that, you will only pick good engages. But then you need to pick good targeting. You could pick good engages without picking good targeting. Your targeting has been bad this whole time until, like, 2 fights. You targeted the Lux here, which you did kill her, but it was a bad engage. And the earlier fight, you targeted the Twitch near the middle of the fight, which was a good targeting selection. And here's your vision. Maximum. Right there. There's your maximum. Here's your minimum. Bad engage. And if I was them, I would take this and take Baron. Alright. Somehow you're still not far behind in gold. You should have been punished way harder than this. So what you're doing now, I kind of understand it. You're just running around your bottom side jungle because you see people are over here and you're trying to respond to where they are. If I was you, I would just be looking for the Twitch. I would not be looking up for this fight. This fight, if you're counting, bad engage. That fight, if you're counting, probably still could be a bad engage, but also could be a pick. And I would be looking for the pick. Because he was low. And you had to speed up towards him. Now he's not low. Again, you just sit under turrets. So this is a map positioning. You don't know where to be. You don't know how to create pressure. Even if you could go in there, that would have been a bad engage, because you would have only hit the Nautilus. Yeah, okay, this was a bad fight. And part of the reason this was a bad fight was because he did not know how to create pressure. So your problems so far, your vision control, your win condition, your mentality of what can I get later, predicting what the enemy team wants to do and responding to it quickly. You need to be better at counting. You need to be better at targeting. You need to be better at vision control with Baron, and in general, your pink ward needs to go over here. You need to be using your vision in such a way that you predict where they're going to be going. Those two things are linked. And over here, there was nothing to control. Over here, there was no reason for them to be on this red buff. Those are the important things to consider with vision. Your judgment of damage was not the issue here, right? Whenever you lost your level 1 fight, or rather your first gank bottom, whenever you lost that, it was because you just took a stupid engage. It was 3 people here and 2 on your team. Wait a little while and come back. By the way, speaking of waiting, you don't literally stand in a bush, you look for something else to do. You wait around a lot, including level 1 when you're not paying attention. You need to be present when you're playing this game. Let's see. You don't know how to create pressure. A lot of the times you need to learn how to manage waves. Managing waves is creating pressure. And to do this, you need vision control. So maybe you don't switch to your sweeper if your team's not going to help ward in critical areas like this. Because realistically, they have all their vision over here, so you're not sweeping anything on Baron. So you don't necessarily know that, though. Okay, I'll give you that. But pink ward is enough control for the important places. Let's see. Yeah, and I might have said some other stuff throughout here, but I forgot them if I did say them. Anyways, I hope some of that will be helpful, and good luck, my friend.